Coming to you from the Hudson Media Group studio, this is Talking Politics, and I am the professor, Fernando Uribe. There's a lot to discuss, so let's get started. Here's what I'm thinking about right now. Now, folks, first and foremost, I want to just let you know that I am a history professor during the day, and I'm aware of what the Bill of Rights bestows us. Specifically, let's start with the First Amendment, because arguably is perhaps the most important set of rights that we have as Americans, next to the significance of due process. And yes, I've attended protests when I was in college, and let's be honest, who didn't? You know, there were causes we believed in, and we were willing to cut class, miss work, etc. And this was years and years ago, before any social media was circulating information, so of course, being able to share it with classmates or people on campus was indeed quite difficult. But it still got done. Now today, let's be honest, it's become an oversaturation of bleeding heart nonsense. There, I said it. For the longest time, the American left clearly has cornered the market on a lot of this lunacy, and it shows. Now that I've gotten this out of the way and out of my system, it's time for reality. Now is not the time to get emotional, but rather to be logical and rational. And I know that's something that for many on the left in the United States, they're clearly incapable of. But I'm going to do my best to give you a thorough breakdown about why I'm so outraged. Now, you want to know what I really enjoy watching on YouTube? And I know I have a really sick sense of humor. If you ever watch my Instagram stories, I have every politically incorrect meme possible, some other things on there. And to be honest with you, I kind of have some dark humor, and I think a lot of us enjoy it as well. But you know what? When I watch protesters getting run over because of the nuisance they've become in our American cities, I'll be honest with you, I enjoy it. I'll actually watch it in a loop over and over again. Maybe as I'm having a sandwich, maybe as I'm having a glass of wine, maybe as I'm doing work, grading, whatever. Okay? These are people blocking traffic, being an outright nuisance in many of our cities, and in some cases, actually pulling drivers out of their vehicles and even assaulting them. Folks, this is not hyperbole on my part. You can go on YouTube yourself and look it up. It's happened. Okay? It's happened in many American cities where they've become just rambunctious, violent, and disorderly. And all this for what? Because, for example, BLM radicals want their way and they're willing to do anything to get it. That's the perception that's out there, folks. That's the eye test. These are the optics, right? These eyes never lie. So when you're looking at these things, it's important to keep it in perspective. Now, of course, many of you are curious, why I'm so diametrically opposed to BLM. Well, let me be very clear about something, because I care about black communities. I care about black issues, okay? But the reason I'm so against BLM, the movement itself, is because they're a fraud. And the reason is the following. It's been 7 years since BLM was formed in this country, after the Trayvon Martin tragedy in Florida. And they've raised over $500 million. But guess what? BLM, the movement, has not had one neighborhood cleanup. Have they even sent one poor black kid to college? Have they bought school supplies, let's say for black teachers in poor urban neighborhoods? Because as we all know, a lot of school districts aren't properly funded. So when teachers have to decorate their classrooms or get supplies, they can't go to the budget at the school, it comes out of their pocket. All right? Has BLM, the movement, fed the hungry, or have they donated to any food banks or provided housing to at least one poor black family in this country? So where's the money going other than, to buy huge charter buses to transfer members to riots all across the country? Oh, and did I mention that they keep donating millions of dollars to the Democratic Party and candidates specifically to keep them in power? And it's these same Democrats across major American cities, folks, who are running them into the ground. It's absurd. It's like they keep this sort of self-perpetuating cycle and this sort of defeatist mentality. But you know what? I'll get to that in a minute. I care about issues affecting the black community. I've said it before, I've said it again. I'm a dues-paying member of the NAACP. I pay my membership fee every single year. I get the email, I pay it online, and as a matter of fact, I speak with members of the NAACP on other media platforms. But you know what else I also do? I put my money where my mouth is. Because when it comes to caring for the black community, for as long as I can remember, and here's a good example for it, since 2008, you know who's raised $50,348 to benefit the American Cancer Society? More specifically, making strides against breast cancer? Because disproportionately, you know who's affected by breast cancer? Perhaps more than any other demographic in this country? Yeah, you guessed it, black women. That's me. And you know what? Throughout this entire time, you would think that some of these other causes that are so woke and so down, to help black people, well, it doesn't seem like they're doing that. But nevertheless, though, you know what? It's one of the things I wanted to bring to your attention. Whether it's BLM, which again has become a radical movement in this country, or even other organizations in New Jersey. Let's take the newest one that I just came across, and that's SMART in Montclair. Yes, it stands for Suburban Moms Against Re-electing Trump. And the first thing that came to my mind when I watched some of their footage online and I watched their social media is like, oh my God, oh joy. Yet another organization of New Jersey liberal moms sitting around with time and money. as if we need more of that in this state, for the love of God. But you know what? Whether it's Women for Progress, another bleeding heart activist organization with too much time and money on their hands, or SMART in Montclair. I mean, again, they're part of Smart Voter USA, which is sort of a more national group, but there is a chapter in Montclair, New Jersey. I mean, God help us, maybe there might be other chapters servicing throughout the state as well. But you know what? Nothing breeds humor for me and contempt than a bunch of suburban moms with their virtuous BLM signs that they put on their front lawn, okay, because, you know, in between their yoga classes, because they want to show that they're so woke and they're so down with the cause, you know, because that's all they care for. Give me a break. These are the same suburban moms that will chant defund the police in a lot of urban neighborhoods when they go protest, right? When they make their little signs, after they go to Staples and decorate them all nice. And guess what? They go back to their homes in Bergen County and they keep spending their husband's money and having fits and tantrums at their local Starbucks if, God forbid, they run out of like soy milk or almond milk when they're getting their lattes. You ever know what like the term, you know, latte liberals comes from? It's these suburban moms in New Jersey, folks. Trust me. Check out their social media and you'll laugh as much as I have. So, you know, when I watch these moms in Bergen County or other affluent counties have a meltdown, because God forbid, you know, if you dare defund the police in their neighborhoods, you know, you can't do that though. They have to feel safe and secure, you know, when they're taking their kiddies to soccer practice or, you know, to their tuba or piano lessons. But to be fair, it's not these protesters that really get on my nerves, per se. I mean, they do, don't get me wrong. Women for Progress are annoying. Smart, you know, Voter USA in Montclair and other chapters, they're annoying too. All right, and suburban moms who have way too much time and money on their hands can be quite a pain in the ass. But these aren't really the protesters and the protesting types that I really have an issue with. It's the idiots that block bridges, that block roads, okay, that block, you know, main avenues in cities. And you know what? Cheers to the governor in Florida for having a set and addressing the nuisance that is this problem. Recently, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis pushed legislation describing as bold this past week. Now, judging by the plain text of the proposal and the responses, it's bold is indeed an understatement. Under the new Criminal Offenses Section Act established by the would-be Combating Violence, Disorder, Looting, and Law Enforcement Protection Act, Governor DeSantis in Florida thankfully declared it a third-degree felony to obstruct traffic during an unpermitted protest, demonstration, or violent or disorderly assembly. Notably, the next clause purports to remove liability for injury or death a driver may cause if the driver is, quote, fleeing from safety from the mob. Good, run them all over as far as I'm concerned. They're a nuisance. They're a pain in the ass. And I know it sounds cruel, I know it sounds heartless, but folks, that's the truth. And the reason I'm going to tell you this story is because you know what? I'm going to personalize it for you. This past week on Friday night, as I was watching cable news before going out, I was watching, again, MSNBC, CNN. I know I'm trying not to lose brain cells when I'm watching them. And I also watch Fox News. And I happened to see protesters sitting right in front of the Brooklyn Bridge. A friend of mine from grad school, who shall remain nameless, was trying to get home to his pregnant girlfriend. Thankfully, the contractions were a false alarm and there was no emergency. But God forbid that, you know what, he couldn't get home. What would have happened? Because all we have to hear is protesters on bridges and tunnels blocking, whether they're screaming about, say, her name in regards to Breonna Taylor or whatever other cause. I get it, folks. These are all tragic deaths. But blocking traffic, blocking bridges and tunnels, you know, for people getting to work, right? Which is something that a lot of these protesters have no idea about. I mean, the word Indeed is just a word in the dictionary. You know, God forbid they ever went on Indeed.com and started looking for jobs, okay? Or, for example, emergency vehicles that need to get through. Folks, those few seconds could be the difference between life and death. But you know what? These protesters, they couldn't be bothered because they have to be down, they have to be woke, they have to say her name, they have to whatever. And you know what? I get it. These are tragedies that we all feel bad about, and we're hoping that there is some sort of criminal justice reform and prison reform too. But when you're being a nuisance to people, that's where you lose a lot of mainstream, regular, working class people like myself. So you know what? Moving forward, I hope that a lot of you, when you see these protesters, or you know someone that's going to go protest and be a nuisance, try to discourage them, because you know what? You never know when they're being just a downright pain in the ass to many of us in our cities when we just want to get to work, you know, something that most of them don't know what that is, or just want to be able to get on with their lives. Folks, I get it. You want to be down with causes, and you want to be all, you know, about social justice and all this. Folks, I'm over it, and so a lot of you, I know you are, because I see it on my social media all the time. And that's what I'm thinking about right now. In the latest edition of the now 4-time award-winning podcast Talk in the Hudson, which you can listen to live every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. by going to www.blogtalkradio.com/talkinthehudson, was the distinguished chairwoman of the Hudson County Democratic Organization, Amy DeGise, in her regularly scheduled monthly appearance. We talked for over an hour on a variety of local issues, and here are some highlights for your consideration. First and foremost, we talked about a lot of the rumors circulating as to whether or not Jersey City Mayor Stephen Fulop wants the chairwoman on her ticket as a council candidate in 2021. Let's check out what she had to say.
But Amy, again, getting back to you, it seems that, to the best of my knowledge, and again, I don't know if I sit down with you and the mayor, but everyone's, my sources keep chirping in my ear saying, well, the mayor really would like to have Amy on. It seems like Amy and him haven't met yet. Amy, some people might look at this and say, well, this is Stephen Phillips' attempt once again to try to get back into the good graces of your dad. As we all know, the debacle of what happened 2 years ago. And we know that that caused a lot of bad blood for some time with your dad, and rightfully so. I think a lot of people were pissed off at Stephen during that entire saga. And it was interesting to see a campaign video not too long ago of your father and Stephen in it. I thought it was priceless to see it on there. But some people are looking at this as, hey, this is Stephen's attempt to try to really smooth it over with trying to convince Amy to come on the council. And some people might just say, hey, what Amy's been doing as the chairwoman of the HCDO has been incredibly, amazing in terms of outreach, in terms of mobilizing voter registrations and everything else. Amy, again, this is just an opinion that I know I share, but I know others might share as well. It seems like a lot of people would be telling you, like, hey, you're better off staying as chairwoman. I think your outreach and not necessarily your power, but your ability to influence, I think, is considerably more as the chairwoman of the HCDO. But maybe I'm wrong. What say you tonight to the listeners that are wondering, hey, is Amy going to take the plunge and take the jump, and maybe go for city council?
Yeah, I do really enjoy the work that I get to do as chair. I do sometimes feel spread thin, so I'm never one to add more to my plate if I know I can't handle it. And as the chairwoman, you really get to build on all of the different branches. And when you're on the council, you're working, as a legislator, where I get to work on, building policy with the policymakers and constituents, but also working with the executive branches, at the county and state and the municipal levels, which I don't know if I'd be able to continue to do. And you get to see what each of these really diverse different communities throughout Hudson are doing and saying, like, oh, my God, like, we could use that at the other part of Hudson and building bridges there. So I don't know if council would be kind of the same experience. But, council is something my dad did that when I was a little girl. I remember running around City Hall with him as a council president. And so did my Aunt Lois. She was the first female councilwoman elected in Jersey City. So it's like a big honor in our family that we were able to represent, this city that, our ancestors came to and we just never left. So it is a very, like, humbling act. Like, it's just an honor to sit it in the realms of people that I've, have been in awe of for so long. It is a big thing to think about, though. And I don't know if the mayor were to ask me if it would be about, let's put that final stitch in and patch this all up. I would hope that he looks at me as a good leader, a diplomat, someone who really wants to bring good things to this city, lifelong resident who's never going to leave here, going to continue to raise my family here. And he would take that into consideration and say, like, I want someone like that to fight for the city with me. So I hope that's where, his mindset is at, if that is what he's considering. But, I think he plays his cards very close to the chest. He's probably weighing tons of options and tons of people. He's heavily focused on what's going on in Ward D, finishing a strong census count, which is ending in, 5 days now. So I think that he'll knock that domino over when it's ready to be knocked over. And, and I'm all for keeping an open mind. I don't like to make decisions before, it's even presented to me. But I promise I will be completely honest, and you guys will be the first to know.
Well, I appreciate that. And listen, you always speak with me exclusively every month. And certainly if your mind changes, I'm sure that, I might not be able to get the scoop right away, but getting you on the air and talking about it is something obviously that I look forward to if and when a decision is finally made and, you're comfortable discussing it.
Secondly, we discussed the possibilities of the son of U.S. Senator Robert Menendez, Robert Jr., perhaps seeking a mayoral run in Jersey City. How much of that will be trouble for Jersey City Mayor Stephen Fulop in 2021 remains to be seen, but here's what Amy had to say about it.
Well, it's the truth, but the bottom line is that there's still some bad blood there. And, you know, if Senior decides to put all his weight behind Junior and run, I think it could spell disaster for Stephen Fulop, because the Menendez name, and I know some people might say, well, in Jersey City, you know, going back some years, the senator had some bad blood with, you know, the late, great Mayor Cunningham, but that's a long time ago. And I think a lot of people, you know, in 2018, we saw people mobilize for Senator Menendez. You were a part of that. You and the HCDO really mobilized a lot of voter turnout for Bob Menendez in that 2018 race for him. And it seems like his name carries a lot of capital. And if you're Stephen Fulop, you know, if Robert Jr. decides to jump into this and starts putting together a good council ticket with him, I'm sorry, this is bad news for Stephen Fulop, Amy. I just want to hear your thoughts, if possible.
Yeah. I mean, because I thought it was more rumor than true, I didn't really put that much thought. But yeah, you're right. Anybody, not only with name recognition, but with the capability of raising money, you know, because I mean that's a huge part of coordinating a campaign is, you know, how are you going to pay for signs? How are you going to give stipends to your volunteers? And, you know, how are you setting up offices? That's a really big scare for people who want to run, is I don't know if I can raise money. But he would be able to do it. You know, he would be able to raise money without having, you know, having to rely on council candidates to raise money for him.
Sure.
And honestly, I think the minute, like, his name does carry a huge amount of weight, but he carries it well. You know, he's so like wholeheartedly on issues that he's passionate about. And he's really, you know, he researches things and he educates himself on, you know, in issues and different perspectives. And I can kind of relate to growing up in a family that was always surrounded by politics. You don't think that it's weird. You think that everyone's family is sitting home and dissecting the Jersey Journal and talking about, you know, popular names. And he grew up around that too. So it just kind of becomes second nature to you to look at everything as, you know, what is the quality of life? You know, how are the constituents feeling? What could be improved? And I go to work and I look at the roads and I'm like, are these the best that we could do? You know, like, so I think he looks at life through the same lens, and he would be extremely savvy. He'd run a really tough campaign as well. You know, he's very energetic. When he speaks to people, it's absolutely captivating. He was, you know, we got to bond, you know, coordinating for his father here in Hudson, and he would speak on his dad's behalf, and, you know, it was like listening to Senator Menendez, who's another really great speaker.
Absolutely.
You know, he's very captivating and extremely passionate. So I agree. You know, if that was the case, I could definitely see a tough campaign season. And not just
Amy,
because of his name, but because what he could put behind it.
It was a very informative interview for over an hour. You can check it out in its entirety by going to www.blogtalkradio.com/Talk on the Hudson. Once again, I continue to bring you the exclusives such as HCDO Chairwoman Amy DeGise, Al Sullivan, and many, many more, as we'll continue to do that throughout 2020. And now to some local stories for your consideration. And we'll start off in Jersey City, where illegal evictions are happening in Hudson County despite moratoriums, and thus worrying a lot of local advocacy groups. Now, let me just give you a perspective here, and by the way, a nice shout out to Joshua Rosario from the Jersey Journal for his report on this story. Now, despite a state moratorium on evictions, landlords in Jersey City specifically have come under the microscope because even though some tenants have not paid rent in, let's say, over 3 months, suddenly many Jersey City residents are now becoming homeless. And advocacy groups in Jersey City are up in arms. As a reminder, in March, Governor Phil Murphy established the state's eviction moratorium, which halted court proceedings and prevented lockouts like the one that are happening in Jersey City in many instances. The ban on evictions will continue until 2 months after Murphy declares an end to the COVID-19 health crisis, which coincidentally, this past week, the governor extended the pandemic and executive order another 30 days. Now, the Waterfront Project, for example, which provides legal services to low-income residents in Hudson County, said there has been, quote, an alarming uptick in incidents like the ones being reported in Jersey City. Soon after being locked out, many residents have gotten their case in front of a Hudson County judge. Now, judges in Jersey City at the Superior Court have ordered landlords to allow tenants back into their home or possibly face arrest. For example, Michael Pastacaldi, an attorney for some of the tenants being represented by the Waterfront Project, have not responded to any comments recently as it pertains to the court proceedings. But folks, listen, let me tell you something. And as someone who owns real estate and as someone who is aware of what happens when you have tenants and everything else, now is the time to be also judicious and prudent. And it's a time as well to be somewhat sympathetic to what's going on. Not everyone's working right now, and even though New Jersey is reopening at a very slow pace, it's something to keep an eye on, because you know what? Whether it's in Jersey City or other municipalities in Hudson County, you know what? Landlords, please, I understand this is a business. It's profit you're losing for many months of rent. I understand all that. But at the same time, these are families that are looking to earn once again. And since the economy in New Jersey isn't opening up as quickly as other states, many New Jerseyans are really feeling the crunch in their pockets, whether it's about rent or food on their tables for their kids and families. These are some tough times, and they require tough decisions. So I applaud the Waterfront Project for standing up for these residents, and we'll keep you posted about what's going on with this story in the weeks and months ahead. And now to another local story for your consideration. And folks, it is October, and one of the many significant months of the year. It is because of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. As we all know, municipalities throughout Hudson County will be promoting awareness about this very serious problem still going on in our society. More specifically, the Township of North Bergen, under the guidance and leadership of Mayor and State Senator Nicholas Sacco, along with the Board of Commissioners, in addition to Nicole Avella and other advocates for the township, will be again doing workshops and other important events throughout the month of October. We know last year in 2019, the Township of North Bergen raised significant awareness about domestic violence with rallies as well as other public events. Now, we know because of COVID-19, those might be limited, but without a doubt, I'm very confident that the Township of North Bergen, again, under the leadership of Mayor and State Senator Nicholas Sacco, along with Nicole Avella, who's really leading the charge here, as well as other activists, will certainly bring an awareness about how serious this problem is, folks. And we know that even though it's 2020, especially during this pandemic, domestic violence has still continued to occupy a significant presence in our lives. It might be a neighbor, it might be a family member. They've been affected in one way or another, and domestic violence needs to stop. So a great job by North Bergen this year, as they'll be leading the charge along with other municipalities, such as Union City under the leadership of Mayor Brian Stack, Guttenberg Mayor under the leadership of Mayor Wayne Zitt, as well as the town of West New York under the leadership of Mayor Gabriel Rodriguez, and other townships in Hudson County are going to be first and foremost right at the scene to make sure that we get rid of domestic violence once and for all. And lastly, a local story that's of deep significance to me is because October is also Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and yours truly has been a dedicated volunteer for the American Cancer Society since 2008. I've been fortunate enough through fundraising and being very creative about it via online functions and also hosting events throughout the years to have raised $50,348 for making strides against breast cancer, specifically at the Jersey City Walk that happens every year. Now, because of COVID-19, the walk at Lincoln Park in Jersey City will not take place. It will actually take place virtually. But it's not going to stop me from raising money to defeat breast cancer once and for all. And this year, joining me in this quest will be the Union City PBA Local 8 chapter, as we'll be working together for the 2020 campaign of A Professor's Quest to Save Breasts. Now, subsequently this year, I've had many great sponsors and many more are to come. Now, they include MedChoice Advisors, Medical Plans, the 512 Bar and Restaurant in Cliffside Park, the Chris Hill Insurance Agency out of Elizabeth, Metropolis Nights Magazine, one of the better nightlife magazines online, the Mason Civic League, a nonprofit organization out of Hoboken, Corbello Law and that law firm in Allendale, New Jersey, as well as Muller Insurance, represented by Erica Muller in Hoboken, the Doghouse in Nanuet under the supervision of James Barracato, Cooper Place, another great outstanding local venue in Weehawken, also under the supervision of James Barracato, the Bello Chiropractic Office in North Bergen under the direction of Dr. Frank Bello, Insider NJ under the supervision of Pete Onelia, as well as the law office of Maria Gesualdi, Esquire at Law in Guttenberg. Folks, it's going to be a great opportunity for all of these sponsors and myself to work together along with the Union City PBA Local 8 to bring you as much as we can during the month of October. And specifically, folks, to keep it in mind, on Saturday, October the 17th, from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m., yours truly will join the hardworking men and women of the Union City Police Department, and again, specifically, the Union City PBA Local 8, as we'll work together to raise money for Making Strides Against Breast Cancer right across from the 48th Street Burger Line Avenue light rail station. It'll be a boot drive. We'll also be selling t-shirts that day. Again, all proceeds will benefit the American Cancer Society, but more specifically, Making Strides Against Breast Cancer. So of course, folks, mark it on your calendars for Saturday, October the 17th. Once again, from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. We'll be at the right across from the light rail station on 48th Street and Burger Line. We'll be there all day, rain or shine. We'll be out there collecting money. Once again, via boot drive, and there'll be a table as well. We'll be selling some very colorful t-shirts. And again, it's doing our part to help defeat breast cancer in 2020. I can't say enough about how privileged I am to be with my sponsors this year, and more so with the Union City PBA Local 8 and all those hardworking men and women who keep our streets safe in the city of Union City. I'll keep you posted throughout the month of October, folks, as again, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, with important segments as it pertains to early detection, prevention, and also the resources that the American Cancer Society brings you each and every day to help battle breast cancer. For more information concerning the American Cancer Society, make sure you check out their website, www.cancer.org. You'll see a list of doctors, resources, and other vital information if you or a loved one are being affected by breast cancer. Let's all do our part, ladies and gentlemen, and hopefully we can defeat breast cancer once and for all. And that's our show for this week. To check out all the excellent programming brought to you by the Hudson Media Group and NJ On Air, please go to their websites, www.hmgtvshows.com, www.livestream.com/hmgtv, and www.njonair.com. Don't forget to like the Hudson Media Group and NJ On Air on Facebook and follow them both, respectively, on Instagram and Twitter. You can check out the 4-time award-winning podcast, Talking the Hudson, ladies and gentlemen, every Wednesday night live at 9 p.m. by going to www.blogtalkradio.com/Talking the Hudson. You can download it and listen to it from any PC, Mac, smartphone, or tablet. I can't say enough, ladies and gentlemen, about being bestowed for the 4th consecutive year an Excellence in Broadcasting and Journalism Award from the upcoming Union City Artist Awards. Without you, my loyal listening audience, every single week on Blog Talk Radio, this award would not be possible. So again, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And when I received the news, let me tell you, I was deeply humbled. For those of you that know me, you know I'm not the most humble person around. So again, I'm deeply grateful for your support and your ongoing listenership every single week on Blog Talk Radio, as well as here with the Hudson Media Group and NJ On Air, as you continue to check out Talking Politics every single week here on the media platforms, once again brought to you by Hudson Media Group and NJ On Air. And never forget, ladies and gentlemen, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, you know it's Talking Politics, right here with Hudson Media Group and NJ On Air. I'm Fernando Uribe. Thank you so much for watching.
Don't forget to catch Fernando's podcast at blogtalkradio.com/talkonthehudson. New episodes available every Wednesday night at 9 p.m.